Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. So now guys, it is plots and intrigues a minute within the Nigerian space. It never ends. Guys, I bring you this: Orji Kalu to remain in Kuje. So now this is the narrative of this guy, of course, the former governor, the former 419 governor of Abia State, who ruled and governed over that state for 8 solid years and looted every single year the coffers of that state. So to the point then that this guy was sent to Kirikiri, Kirikiri being the pseudonym for the correctional facilities as they have now termed them in Nigeria. But then he was of course only there for like a couple of months before he was released on a technicality, or let loose on a technicality, by the Supreme Court of Nigeria. So now the latest development on that narrative: Orji Kalu to remain in Kuje. So now let's now see now what the latest development is. Former governor of Abia State, Orji Kalu, is still detained in Kuje correctional facilities despite a Supreme Court order quashing his conviction by a federal high court in Lagos. It was learnt on Monday evening that the embattled Abia politician remains in his correctional facility room as authorities claim that no release order was issued by the Apex Court for his release. Comptroller General of Nigeria Correctional Service, Mr. Jafar Ahmed, refused to release Kalu, stating that no release order from the Supreme Court has been made available to him. However, the Supreme Court order only relates to the second appellant, Mr. James Udogo, who challenged the propriety of an appeal court judge to try him. The judgment delivered by Justice Ejimba Eko reads in part: the fiat, that is FIAT/permission, issued on the 2nd of July 2018 by the President Court of Appeal to the Honorable Justice MB Idris GCA to proceed to the Federal High Court Lagos and conclude the part heard criminal matter FHC/ABJ/CR/56/07. So that's the case number. Notwithstanding the fact that the Honorable Justice MBE Idris GCA, upon his elevation to the Court of Appeal, had ceased not only to be a judge of the Federal High Court, but also to have and exercise the powers and jurisdiction of the Federal High Court, is ultra virus section 1 subsection 2A and 19 subsection 3 and 4 of the Federal High Court Act, the same being an outright usurpation of the powers of the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court. The said fiat, that's FIAT, so the said fiat/permission issued without any lawful or constitutional authority, being a nullity, is hereby set aside. AII steps, including actions, proceedings, and decisions and orders issued, taken and or conducted pursuant to the said fiat, that's FIAT. I am only spelling it out, by the way, because I suspect that is an acronym for something. So to the said fiat/permission dated 2nd of July 2018, as they pertain to the appellant, that is Ude, herein are hereby set aside. The judgment of the Court of Appeal /number.CA/1064C/2018, delivered on the 24th of April 2019, particularly as in respect of the appellant and as it affected him, is hereby set aside. The case number FHC/ABJ/CR/56/2007, as it pertains and relates to the appellant as the second defendant at the trial court, is hereby remitted to the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court to reassign to another judge if the Federal High Court for the trial de novo appeal allowed. So now technical legal stuff, but the thrust of it is that there's several elements to this. So the first element to it, of course, is that this character, this Orji Kalu, still remains at the pleasure of the Nigerian correctional facilities, because the Comptroller General of that particular department is insisting that there's nothing from the Supreme Court to state that he should release this guy. So release him, he will not. So that's the one element. So that's the first element. The second element now, which is now coming to us, at least to me as news, is that this appeal and this judgment is not actually for Orji Kalu, but for his finance officer then, this Udogo fella, because of course, apparently and seemingly, and from what is now imagined, his lawyers are a lot cleverer than the lawyers of Orji Kalu, and they have noted that no, this judge that sat in judgment on this case had already left and vacated his position as a federal high court judge to go up to the Supreme Court, and all the powers vested then in him then as a federal high court has ceased at that point of note to then transfer to a higher power of the appeal court. So on that technicality, because they say the law is an ass, and this now case is the example that makes that very point. So a technicality, a detail, they say the devil is always in the detail, and they say to always read the fine print, because the detail is always what would unravel or make anything, and this again example is what exemplifies that idiom. So now the lawyers for this Udogo have gone to challenge the jurisdiction and the authority of that Justice Idris to sit on this case, and because the law can sometimes be black and white, that black and white element there, so black and white is yes or no, so it's either this way or that way, and there's no room for nuances or ambiguities or whatever. So it is on the basis of that that they have been able now to get that judgment. But then of course that judgment, because the law is all about detail and peculiarities, that judgment that has now been gotten was actually gotten for this Udogo fella. It was not for Orji Kalu, but for Udogo. So if the judgment that was gotten was for Udogo and not Orji Kalu, even though the two cases are tied together, is to all effects and purposes a singularity, the multiplicity of it is in its peculiarity, and that peculiarity is that the lawyers that went to court to seek an address, that went to the Supreme Court to seek an address on a matter, to seek that a matter be addressed, were the lawyers for Udogo, and the case that they presented to the Supreme Court was the case. And the position that the Supreme Court took was a position on the case that was presented to them, which of course was the case of Udogo. So the Comptroller General of the correctional facilities of Nigeria is quite right and to the letter to state that he has no reason, he will actually be breaking the law if he released Orji Kalu, because Orji Kalu never presented himself to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court never took a position on Orji Kalu, so there is no paperwork then, there's no legal backing for the correctional facilities to let go of this 419 governor. So Kuje Correctional Facilities, he remains, and Kuje Correctional Facilities, he will continue to remain until his lawyers hurriedly scurry to the Supreme Court to try and tie his name to this now judgment that they have gotten. But then by the time that they are doing that, the EFCC is already making hasty moves to ensure that this guy does not escape or leave the correctional facility. So it is who moves first wins now. It's a race now against getting this guy out or having him remain there between the EFCCs and the Orji Kalu team. This is now where we are in this now never-ending saga that is the Nigerian narrative. Conversations in the comment section. The looter of Abia State remains in Kirikiri is the upshot of it. What says you? Come share thoughts, but before you do that, click on the red subscribe button so it turns grey. The bell button notifies you every time I drop a new video. Then come tell me now what you're making of this new development in the comment section. So I'll leave you here. Carry this conversation on with you in the comment section. But here I say peace.